Now, let's bring in Kelly Khumalo's lawyer, Magdalene Moonsamy. She joins us now via Zoom. Magdalene, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Well, of course, I'm sure you are following this case very, very closely. Talk to me about your reaction to these latest developments and what that essentially means for your client, Kelly Khumalo.
When you speak about the latest developments, are you speaking about the developments regarding the jurisdiction of the matter, or the developments regarding what was recently referred to as a warrant of arrest, or the developments regarding the fact that my client has at some stage been accused of pulling the trigger and there's an eyewitness? Or is it the developments that you're referring to regarding my client having once had brought off individuals to commit the crime? Or is it the developments that you're referring to of the constant harassment and intimidation that has been undergone by a client and myself during this case? And or is it the matter that we are going to find our way back in court? I'm not certain which developments to focus on.
Well, you've given me so much to choose from, but I'm talking about the very latest developments, and in fact, what is now known as another bombshell from this murder trial. And it's essentially a development that means that your client will wait a little longer before she makes her way to court, as she's always maintained that she wants her day in court. I'm talking about the resignation of Advocate Malesela Teffo, who of course was representing accused number 1 to 4. What the setback that we obviously know is inevitable, what that means for your clients?
I think that is very significant in respect of the delays, as was iterated earlier. The delays that may be caused as a result of counsel, a new counsel being appointed, and whether and how long that would take, obviously. The other issue would be then, what are the consequences in so far as delaying the process of the prosecution of the matter, of which my client has been anticipating her day as a state witness in court. I find it precarious that there has been a withdrawal when at the same time there has been a letter requesting from accused number 3, if I'm not mistaken, outlining the facts regarding his treatment in prison. However, this is concerning insofar as what next, which is why I brought those developments prior. Because this matter, from the issue of dealing with jurisdiction, the application for jurisdiction, is that concisely correct? To us now being faced, which has been abandoned, us now being faced with an application for for withdrawal, or there's been a withdrawal, this is, of course, a further delay. We would have anticipated that we would have at least a second witness, or state witnesses, eyewitnesses for that matter, before the court by now, and that the state would want to reconsider the approach within which it wants to address the court. What would be interesting for me, however, is the reasons for the withdrawing of Advocate Teffo to be made known publicly and understood as to why. However, this is a concern in terms of delaying what we have anticipating to be justice for the legal system.
There were a number of... Of course, Magdalene, there were a number of issues that you also raised in terms of the developments just within this trial. Of course, you touched on the withdrawal or the recusal of Advocate Teffo. You've also touched on the matters that were supposed to be discussed today. And in fact, we were presented with the letter from accused number 3. But there were other elements that are concerning. And of course, on the sidelines of an interview that Advocate Teffo had with our senior journalist, Chriselle Gerald Lewis, he cited a number of influences that were at play within this trial. I mean, this is not the first time that Advocate Teffo has spoken on the sidelines about various things. I mean, you touched on something earlier on that, in fact, he said within court that said that your client, he will prove, in fact, that your client, Kelly Khumalo, did, in fact, pull the trigger that fatally shot Senzo Meyiwa by accident. So a lot of developments, as you're saying. What are you hoping, will happen come a new counsel, or just as the trial again resumes in August, to allow the accused to receive a new counsel?
I think the first thing that's very critical for me is that the country can now see that accused for 1 to 4 has been lying to the country. He cannot substantiate the evidence and the claims that he has made. Even docket 375 has been regarded as not having merit. Now, the issue of jurisdiction, and I've said this previously, issue of jurisdiction is the first point in limine that must have been raised. It was not raised. The letter was presented on day 1 of the sitting. And when that letter was presented, both parties, both defense for accused 1 to 4 and defense for 5, accepted the jurisdiction of Pretoria. All of these tricks and tirades have now exposed the truth behind the lies of what is, in terms of the law, an act of, it's not an illegal and compliant act. So what are we hoping? We are hoping that indeed those accused that have been brought before court by the state are going to stand trial, and that they will be in a position to provide South Africa with the answers that is needed, that they will be given an opportunity for the evidence to be tested that is brought by the state. That is what we are hoping for. We are tired of having heard all of these allegations that have come through, which we can now very well confirm have been, were not going to be tested, which may well be one of the reasons why there has been a withdrawal. And we are relieved that indeed we anticipate that the court and its process will be respected in the decorum, in the nature, and the manifest that we've been taught.
Of course, you mentioned docket 375, and I recall also you saying you haven't really made light of what is contained because you were not approached by the state. Yes, Advocate Teffo did bring that, to the court's attention, but a lot of time was also spent by Advocate Zandile Mshololo, who continued to raise the questions regarding the second docket. Of course, she represents accused number 5. So it is I would imagine, an element and a matter that you would have to consider if you are then looking at saying that accused number 1 to 4 were at pains, to speak mistruths, but yet we have another accused who's represented by a different counsel also bringing up that very contentious docket. Have you had line of sight of it? Because I recall that you hadn't the last time we did speak. And also, are you also watching, just some of those contentious issues that were brought by, yes, the advocate that has withdrawn, but some of those elements remain in the trial because, as I've said, Advocate Zandile Mshololo has also brought that particular docket into the fore.
In respect of my having a sight of the docket 1, I only have sight of the information provided by defense for accused 1 to 4, which was a submission that was made to the president, not to court. That was in 2021. Over and above, the debates regarding docket 375, which are in consistency with what Advocate Mshilolo is saying, is in dispute, if you remember on the last appearance, that there is no need for us to bring a further application for the purposes of 375 because it is an issue that was then found to lack merit. In respect of that docket, I still believe that that docket has no merit because that docket has been floating around, and the Criminal Procedure Act, especially in a matter of this nature, is very, very particular about the processes that it guards very, very sacrosanctly in respect of dockets, information, evidence, what is in that docket. It may be that the docket that is 375, the information already exists. Now you speak about 375. If you want to go to that docket, be very cautious, because then you would also be looking at a warrant of arrest which was unsigned and thrown before the media as fodder to eat off, which was unsigned by a magistrate, and of which my client has not had any interaction with. So all of this information, the second docket, the requests that have been made, etc., indeed, this is now becoming a point of ridicule, and we don't want to be subjecting ourselves, being attorneys and being admitted attorneys of the High Court, to any lack of coherency and there being a convincing case that indeed 375 does have merit, and that any other document that is presented before the court must be tested evidentially, it must be tested factually, it must be tested by the court. And if the court tested 375 and it failed on merit, that is not the responsibility of anyone to contest. It was requested to be tested, time was given, and it was tested, even though it was brought in at a very late point officially. I think the stage management of this matter is something that, for the purposes of delays, it was Advocate Teffo in the forefront saying that he did not want any delays when the court last sat in June. And it is now him who is withdrawing for the purposes of delays.
All right, Magdalene Moonsamy, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it at such a short notice. Thank you so much for your comments. Of course, she represents Kelly Khumalo, and lawyer of Kelly Khumalo there, Magdalene Moonsamy, of course, responding to that breaking news story.